when I was 9, I basically had my first drink, like my first real drink. And it was just an amazing feeling and made me feel a lot more confident with who I was and what was happening, just life around me. I guess to some extent felt overwhelming. I got prescribed medication, and that just took it to the next level. Once you start with something like that, then the door kind of opens up, especially if you have an addicted personality. So if 1 is good, 2 is better, 100 is even better, but there's never a number that's like, and that's what's good. And I was just like, look, I'm good with what I'm doing. Like, I actually really am enjoying what I'm doing. But if there's something more, like, I need to understand it before I just continue doing this. Like, this is cool now, but like, if I'm supposed to be somewhere at like 50, I don't want to sit and wait till I'm 45. Like, let's work on this thing now.
What does it even mean to go off the derech, to leave the faith that you grew up with? Can someone go so off that they can never return? Alcohol addiction, hard drug addiction, tattoos, can these push someone so away from Orthodox Judaism? Our guests may have experienced all of those. Rav Luger's journey from the streets to being a tremendous Talmid Chacham will leave you speechless. Watch the full story, and I want to hear from you. Now, before we dive in, I need your help. We are updating the album art for the podcast, finally, and you watchers will get to choose it. So which cover do you like more? Option A or option B? Please comment on the one that you like, and the one with the most votes will win, and we'll actually use that. Bonus points if you give your reasoning. Huge thanks to this week's sponsors, Ohr Naava and their brilliant $1 a day campaign, WheelsToLease and the top cars for May, BitBean and their really exciting AI update, the hottest PZ deals, and Feldheim's juiciest books yet. This episode is in memory of Shimon David ben Yaakov Shleima and Miriam Sarah bas Yaakov Moshe. Here we go. I'm Yaakov Langer, and you're listening to Inspiration for the Nation. Rabbi Shmuel Luger, we've had a lot of people who've had different childhoods to what they're like now. You might be maybe of the most extreme examples of that. So could you tell us about what your childhood was like? Paint us the picture.
I'm a regular Muncie kid from Forshey, went to Yeshiva.
So you didn't have a massive beard when you were 5 years old?
I also had hair.
Okay.
But I did have the beard and hair. Yeah. So yeah, I'm from Forshey, Muncie, went to Yeshiva Spring Valley, kind of regular childhood. I didn't really feel very connected. I had friends. I was into sports, basically everything that anyone was into. For the most part, just a regular guy. I went to Yeshiva. I went to high school, and I felt that the values that I had versus a lot of the rest of the guys were different. When I was 9, I basically had my first drink, like my first real drink. And it was just an amazing feeling and made me feel a lot more confident with who I was and what was happening, just life around me. I guess to some extent felt overwhelming. You know how it's challenging when you're 9 years old and, you know, you got to bring home the money, take care of the family, etc. So it was just challenging things. The stress of managing the home was very difficult. And basically I drank then, and I just remembered the feeling, kept going, whether it was bar mitzvahs or anything else. There were definitely other things that were going on. Didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. I'd been, beaten, bullied, etc. Just felt like from every possible angle. And I felt like a target. Whether it was true or not didn't really make so much of a difference. It's just kind of the way that I felt. So I was withdrawing more and more. I also have a very active imagination. So I just spent a lot of time thinking. I was reading a lot, and just I wasn't present, either drinking, which wasn't an every moment thing. It was just something that was, happening, like I think a lot in like social situations and things like that. School wasn't a very engaging thing. I basically was, spacing out or thinking about whatever I wanted to think, reading whatever I wanted, just keeping myself busy and entertained in my own way. And that definitely, showed in my grades and everything else, but it was really about a number. It wasn't about being successful. And I realized that the optics were more important. Just, you're supposed to have this paper, you're supposed to look a certain way, you're supposed to act a certain way. And if you do that stuff, you can get by with pretty much, you can get away with almost anything. As long as it looks good, you're fine. And then I went to high school, and people weren't as interested in the shtick that I was pulling of just doing my own thing. Just don't make trouble, stay off the radar, and you're fine. And I started getting in trouble. And I got kicked out of yeshiva. And then I went to Shari Torah and still was getting in trouble. My drinking definitely increased. And, still reading, doing all the stuff that I was doing. But again, it was really just about getting through. I didn't view school as something that was like a goal to finish. It was something I had to get through, and then I could get to that freedom. Everything was just about get to the next thing, and then you're going to be happy by the next thing. I'm not happy now, I'll get to the next thing. And you got to stay off the radar to be able to get through if you're not trying to succeed. So anytime that I was on the radar, I knew I was in trouble. And, that's basically what happened. It's kind of hard when you start smoking and you're drinking and you're not really doing your schoolwork to stay off the radar. But I'm a teenager, or I was a teenager. And, it's hard to keep a low profile when you're doing that stuff. So that was high school. Got kicked out again, but managed to work my way in. Just unbelievable people who helped me out. I definitely put in a lot of work, but people really looked out for me, helped me get back in. And then I got into a very good yeshiva going to Eretz Yisrael. I thought that was, the best thing. Maybe if I'm in a good place, that's going to fix whatever the issues are. And it did. And now I'm here. But not in the way that I would have liked or hoped. So I went to yeshiva, and the freedom really just was not something I was able to handle. I needed structure. I needed more regulation. And they had that in yeshiva, but no one's telling you a bedtime. No one's telling you, you have to be here, lunch, this, that, no homework. You're sitting and learning all day. There was a certain lack of structure that I was used to. Not sort of that I needed, but that I was used to. And so my drinking definitely went up. And I went from smoking like maybe 5-10 cigarettes a day from high school to smoking 3 packs a day. Wow. And the drinking just became an everyday thing. And it was something that I was like very proud of. Just kind of fast forwarding from that, so I washed out of that yeshiva, went to another yeshiva, and I was almost Shamat Tzion by Rav Zev Leff. And then after that, I came back to America, and I went to Shar Yashiv. And in Shar Yashiv, like all of a sudden was like real life, because now I'm third year base medrash. I have to have things somewhat figured out. I started giving some shiurim chaburos. I was working as a rabbi during the weekends. I was doing like just different stuff that I felt there was like a level of chiyus in it. Just like I didn't like being in the public eye. Not that I really was, but just the message and helping people, and the fact that people felt that they were getting something from what I was saying. Felt like there was like a bigger purpose to what was happening in my life, but at the same time, wasn't comfortable in my own skin. Didn't really have an idea of what I was going to be doing in the future. And there was a lot of uncertainty. Basically, that's where things kind of fell apart. I didn't, as I mentioned, I didn't really feel comfortable as myself as a person, but also in terms of Yiddishkeit. It was about like my Judaism was largely do what you're told. And there was a very open-ended quality like to that. It wasn't like, and then at some point you're going to find the geschmack and it's going to be awesome and you're going to be so connected. It was just like, yeah, this is what we do. We're told this is the most important thing, but I don't really remember them ever mentioning Emunah B'tachon or Hashem much in yeshiva. Kiddush Hashem was this thing that happened on trips. Kiddush Hashem was the most important thing. But what's a Kiddush Hashem? Saying 2, 4, 6, 8, who do we appreciate? The bus driver. He doesn't even have a name. We don't like find out and say it. It's like the bus driver. So Kiddush Hashem was something that happened during trips. So Kiddush Hashem was the most important. But what does it actually mean to be Mekadosh Shem Shemayim? What does it mean to be like a frum Jew? It technically just meant that you were like polite. You said thank you to the bus driver and you say hello. And then when you get locked in a freezer in Uruguay or Argentina, the security guard's going to come and open the door. And that's an amazing story. I'm not like making fun of the story, but it's like, there's no real connection. These are like separate things. There's midos and there's the learning, and you just have to struggle and get through it. And that's essentially what I did. And later on, it just started hitting me of like, so what is this? In yeshiva, I remember kind of the message that I felt was given over was, if you don't keep the Torah, right, you're going to die. Right? So you're going to die. So I accidentally broke Shabbos when I was 7. And fine, that was an accident, so I didn't die. But if someone sees that I turned on the light, they might think I did it on purpose. So I better shut it off. And I did. And I didn't die. And I was like, oh, what else isn't true about this? So when I needed, I was 7, and moving along. If I needed to do something, I did it. There's no one who's going to punish me. And if the people don't know, same thing about, keeping a low profile, then like, what's going to happen? At 14, when I got kicked out of yeshiva, my father asked me on the car ride home, if I still want to be from. And it was just like this eye-opening thing of like, oh, like this is a choice kind of thing. I was like, yeah, of course. But inside I was like, no way. But I really did try to have like a kesher in 12th grade to stay out of trouble. I had chavrusas morning and night. And I was like, from the second I got to yeshiva, I went and woke up a guy in the base medrash. I came in, I had a chavrusa before Shachris, learning Chai Adam. After Shachris, I was learning Shari Tshuva with Hill Shepherd, now Rabbi Shepherd, I guess, Rosh Yeshiva in Cincinnati. I had a chavrusa during breakfast. I had a chavrusa right before for Seder, like throughout the day, primarily keeping me out of trouble. I can't really tell you that much in terms of what we learned, other than what I learned with Hill Shepherd. No offense to any of my other chavrusas. I remember what we learned. I can't like give over so much in terms of the what we'd learned, but it kept me out of trouble and it got me to a good place. And I always wanted to connect. I wanted to know what there was, like to connect to Hashem, to connect to life, just to be in a place of knowing what I'm supposed to be doing and to feel that I'm doing it. It just wasn't really there. And it was very frustrating for me. And after I came back and I went to Shar Yashiv and things were going well, an amazing Rebbeim, and things were good. But all of a sudden it's like, okay, you're in college. What are you doing with your life? You're dating. How are you supporting a family? Where do you want to live? What are you doing? Like just in general, like what's your hashkafa? So are you going to be a rabbi? Are you going to be a teacher? Are you going to work in advertising? Are you going to run nursing homes, real estate, whatever? Like, is that what you're going to do? I don't know. Like, at what point do you get these things actually figured out? And if I'm speaking to my Rebbeim, like, I don't know how you fit that in between the Ritva and, in college, we're learning that there wasn't really a place for that. And that doesn't mean that there wasn't access to Rebbeim. I actually had, throughout my life, had an amazing kesher with almost all of my Rebbeim, which is something of an anomaly, but something that is beautiful. And I'm very, very blessed in that regard. To this day, I have a good kesher with a lot of these Rebbeim. And like, I don't think they really knew either, like what it meant to work in advertising or what it was to work in business. Not really offering a lot of those things in terms of yeshiva. What are my unique abilities? So they could say, I know how to learn, maybe if I know how to learn, but they can't really tell me, oh, but this is your personality and what you're doing. We haven't really developed that kind of relationship. In a lot of places, there's a relationship with mashgiach. You talk about what's bothering you, etc. But there wasn't really a focus on my individuality, which really got me thinking around that time also of like, we're not really doing that stuff in schools. We're not exploring a person's actual individuality, who he is, what he brings to the table. It's just your success is what grade did you get on the paper, right? How well do you know science, biology, algebra, history for some reason. And I love history, but just like, that's who you are. What are you? You're the score that you got in your SATs, or you're how many points you could score in a game of basketball, or whatever other interests you have. That's like kind of who you are rather than totality of the person. So whatever, that was just how the experience that I had at that time. And I was looking for a lot of hadrach and I was looking for help, but not in the right ways. And also I was still doing everything else that I was doing. And between that and the fact that I was drinking and everything else, I just kind of...
When you say everything else, you're talking about like drugs and stuff?
So at the time, no. But basically everything kind of caught up. Mentally, I wasn't really in a great space. I started working. That was great. But I was taking a lot of these things like personally. So I was drinking, I don't want to say to excess on a daily basis, but it was a huge, huge part of my life during Seder and in general. And then at work, there was also, there were challenges and I got injured and I got prescribed medication and that just took it to the next level. Once you start with something like that, then the door kind of opens up, especially if you have an addictive personality. So if 1 is good, 2 is better, 100 is even better, but there's never a number that's like, and that's what's good. So I started getting into a lot of that stuff. I started from getting injured, from doing those things, very quickly became a habit. I can't tell you when a person gets addicted or when they don't, like on a chemical level. But it was definitely a big challenge. I left yeshiva and walked away from everything. And not because of drugs, not because of drinking, not because of any of that stuff, just the whole package of everything that was happening and just being overwhelmed and being frustrated with how things were going. And I went pretty far down the rabbit hole at that time. Just there's a lot that happened with me and that happened with people that I know and friends of mine, and just like try to look at the common factors. There's a release, there's like a freedom when you don't know these things that you're focused in today. So drinking at the time or anything else that I was doing, the most part was, let's get through today. I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. I'm not really so worried about tomorrow, but today is a grind. I got to get through today. And I realized that it was a problem in terms of how I wanted to live life and theoretically what my goals, that I didn't know what they were, but like what I wanted to accomplish. But this was the stuff that was allowing me to live. It wasn't the problem. The problem was I had no idea what I was doing with my life. But this stuff made it manageable. But that stuff was also killing me. But that was okay because I didn't really know what I was living for. Eventually, it got to a point that some of these people were, that I was in a CVS, and the pharmacist, when I was like standing in line, you know, it's a busy pharmacy, and they see hundreds of people every day. The pharmacist said to me, Mr. Luger, what are we getting today? Blues, greens? Like those. First of all, how does this guy know my name? Second of all, that's not the name of a medication. That's, you know, that's like a street name and stuff like that. I got very paranoid and I left. But like, that's not like a normal experience that someone has. If you're walking in or someone's walking in, they're not like, oh, Mrs. Smith, amoxicillin, 500 milligrams, you know, twice a day by mouth. Like, they understand, you know, you're there a little too frequently. You're getting too much stuff. They know what's happening. And it's just like a common theme of, I'll try to get whatever I can get. And, you know, you dive into it. And I went pretty far with that stuff. It was, you know, primarily that I was drinking, but there were definitely a lot of other things that are involved. I think that when it comes to consumption, there's like this concept of like what's okay and what's not okay. So most everybody says not okay. But if you partake in stuff, then you're like, what I do is okay. The line that people say is that, you know, about hard drugs. I like to say the definition of hard drugs is whatever you don't do. And that's where it starts. That's just how people view it. Because what I'm doing is okay. It's the rest of the people that have the problem. I'll tell you, I had a problem with what I was doing. The stuff that I was doing, everything was like, I knew there was an issue, but I wasn't really so interested in correcting it at the time. And then when I was 22, again, I was out of yeshiva. I wasn't really connected to anything. Still just as frustrated and, you know, lost. I was approached by someone who was asking me, "What are you doing?" And I was very depressed, a lot of anxiety. And he asked me, like, "What's the goal here?" And essentially, I told him that, like, I'm ready to check out. I don't really want to be here anymore. Haven't wanted to be here for a long time. Like, I'm kind of done. And he said, "Well, this isn't the way to do it. Like, are you willing to try a different way and stop, drinking and everything else?" And I said, "Yeah," largely because I didn't want to lose the friendship that I had with him. I was Ben biased by him, I was very close with him. So someone came and picked me up and took me to a meeting. And I've been in recovery pretty much ever since. That's 15 years ago.
Wow.
I wish I could tell you that my life got better right away. Stopped drinking, stopped doing everything else. I'm good. It didn't. It got worse because now I didn't have my medicine for what I was supposed to do and how I was supposed to handle life. And I'd also done other stuff, like during, during that tkufa, before I got sober. And I got tattoos, and I was just living a different kind of life. So a lot of stuff actually came from not tattoos per se, but just a lot of these things was like a persona. Like I said, I'd been beaten, I'd been bullied, and I just felt like a target. That's really how I was living my life. Anybody could say something, do something, push me over. I got kicked out of all these places. In most cases, I don't say every case, rightfully so. Okay, but again, if I was on the radar, I'm in trouble. Stay off the radar. But even not being on the radar, I still feel like people can push me around, do what they want, whether it was in high school, elementary school, high school, or just like walking down the street. I'm some Jewish kid, from Muncie. No one taught me, how you're supposed to live, in the streets, going to the city or working or any of that stuff. I just, I felt like I was someone that was able to be pushed around, told what to do. And I needed that stuff to change. So I made a massive change in my life and basically built myself into someone that people wouldn't really think about crossing. And tattoos, I think, definitely added to that. That's not why I did it. It's just a added bonus, to put it one way. But like I said, so much of these things are not being comfortable in your own skin. If you're doing something, you're comfortable in your own skin, great, you've made a decision, you can own it. If you're not, it's coming from a place of weakness, but that's a separate point. So I got sober, and I was still miserable because I didn't know how to live life. I just threw myself into work, got very sick from overworking myself and from my inability to deal with stress. I believe I'm a good worker, and I was a very good worker, and I just kept climbing the ladder and getting promotion after promotion. And I was doing great on the surface. So on paper, I'm great. I'm 22. I'm sober. I have, I'm almost done with college. I'm a capable person. I have a good work ethic, right? I keep climbing the ladder, whether it's deserved or undeserved opportunities. I should be great. I should be really happy. I have no clue. And I don't think I'd ever felt more lost in my life. And I started having panic attacks. My blood pressure was through the roof. I was completely falling apart. And I was like, that's it. I'm going to die. If something doesn't change, I'm going to die. And I wasn't really fighting it. I just kept doing the same stuff, and I wasn't really doing anything to help myself. And then I had a white light experience of just realizing I'm running the world. I don't know that I always was, but I'm trying to control everything around me to kind of fit. I figure it's pure hishtadlus. I'm not trying to control other people, but my own life. I'm just trying everything I possibly can. And I'm not just taking what Hashem's giving me and doing what I can, like a balance between emunah and hishtadlus, right? I'm just pure hishtadlus, because if I don't do it, who's going to take care of me? That's the way it's always been. I've been in survival mode rather than thrive mode, forever. And that's just the way that my mind was working at the time. So I decided I have to give it a shot. And I started working a program. I started working the steps, and my life started to change. I quit my job, or downgraded, because they didn't want me to quit. I started working weekends. I went into what I call my semi-retired phase. I went to work Shabbosos, Yom Tovim, take a occasional overnight shift. The rest of the week, I just went out and what they call in the Welt partied. Except I wasn't drinking and I wasn't doing anything else. So I spent like a summer just going to like the water park. I forgot what it's called, but Splish Splash or something out the other end of the island. And it was like, for real, like best summer of my life. No camp, no nothing. We got there before all the camps got there, did all the rides, and then I just got on a lazy river for like 4 hours. And then we go back, go to a concert, go to a restaurant, just living life, you know? It was really one of the best times that I had. And in general, that's how I was living my life, just going to concerts, going to restaurants. I spent 3-4 hours a day in the gym. It was just no worries, very carefree. It's not like I had things figured out then either. But at least then it was like, I can do this for a while. I can do this today and be very happy when I lie down. It goes against most everything that we were taught growing up, right, about what happiness is. But at the same time, like, I didn't really care. Today, I feel good. And I know that tomorrow is going to be equally good. So I don't really have to worry and stress so much over that. Yeah, so I did that for another 5 years.
We'll be right back and stick around for the full conversation here with Rav Luger because he's going to explain why his life turned around. Something deeply personal to me, Yaakov Langer, is Ohr Naava. Rabbi Zechariah Wallerstein Zatzal was someone I knew personally, and he's an example of someone who helped young girls and young women turn their lives around. If your daughter felt lost, hopeless, disconnected, of course you'd do anything to save her. That's exactly what Ohr Naava does. And yes, Rabbi Wallerstein isn't here, but the foundation he built has been continuing. The new initiative is to support Ohr Naava for $1 a day. That's it. Your $1 will help provide schooling, support, and chizuk to thousands of Jewish women and girls annually. Try it out, and even for just a month and maybe for a year, and you will help thousands of Jewish girls. To me personally, this campaign means a lot. So helping would also mean a lot to me personally. If you're like me, you can give $1 a day for the entire year and wake up every single morning knowing you are helping Hashem's children. Please go to ohrnaava.com, 1-for-1, or honestly, just click the link in the show notes, and also it's trackable. So we'll show, hey, Ohr Naava, we helped you. Or call 718-647-6228. and hit that link in the show notes, and please open your hearts. Now, are you tired of the car leasing runaround? For over 35 years, WheelsToLease has made it simple, honest, and stress-free. No pushy salespeople, no surprise fees, just transparent pricing and white glove service delivered right to your door. Whether you're buying, financing, leasing a new or used car, they'll get you the best deals on any make, any model, anytime. Well, not on Shabbos, but you know what I mean. With their whole remote process, you never have to step into a showroom. Just tell them what you need and they'll handle it. From finding the perfect vehicle to delivering it straight to you. WheelsToLease is trusted for integrity, speed, and customer happiness. Call now and see why families have counted on them for decades. Call 718-871-8715. That's 718-871-8715, or email inspire at WheelsToLease.com. Or of course, visit WheelsToLease.com/inspire. They'll make sure to take care of you. Now, we're going to dive right back in. But first, running a business is hard enough. Your software shouldn't make it harder. That's where BitBean comes in. They help companies become more efficient with smart, scalable technology built specifically around your needs. Whether you're in real estate, healthcare, logistics, retail, whatever it is, BitBean builds custom software that actually makes your team faster, your operations smoother, and your bottom line stronger, Now, thanks to the AI-driven tools and automation, BitBean is delivering smarter solutions at even smarter prices. They integrate AI to help their systems learn, adapt, and help your business run like never before, cutting costs, eliminating waste, and making better decisions in real time. So if you're outgrowing your old software or you're tired of patching together clunky systems that don't talk to each other, talk to BitBean. It's time to work smarter, not harder. Visit BitBean.com to get started, because with BitBean, your business will thrive. Now back to this week's episode.
Then my mother passed away very suddenly, and I went back to Muncie for my father called me. I was at the gym, told me I had to go back to Muncie. Didn't tell me why, but basically told me my mother wasn't going to make it, and drove to Muncie and didn't get to say goodbye, didn't anything. It was like, she's here, she's gone. That's it. And my thought process was, I don't know, like where this goes. Like as I was driving up, There was Kufa that I didn't speak to my parents for a year and 9 months when I was out there before I got sober, well before I got sober, and I called my mother after I got after I'd been sober for a while, I think, on their anniversary. I called her up and I said hi, and I told her where I was holding, what I was doing, and tattoos and just everything else. A real nachas call, I think, is what they'd call it. And I called her up. I told her this stuff, and I said, this is where I'm at. If you can accept this, then great. And if you can't, you can't. And I mean, I imagine a lot of people wouldn't like that, but for me, it was an amazing thing. Not what I did, but it allowed me to have a real relationship with my mother for 4.5 years. Because now I'd kind of set a framework of now I can be a person and be authentic in the relationship with my mother. And therefore I had a real relationship with her for 4.5 years. And it was a very good relationship. It's not like I didn't have a relationship with her growing up. And I'm not saying she was proud of me and accepted everything that I did. It wasn't like that at all. My mother was constantly, all the time we were on the phone, my mother was telling me, I found this nice girl, in Shidduch, and was trying to set me up. And I'm just like, I'm not really doing that right now. And she's telling me different stuff and shiurim and whatever, but she was being herself. And she was a very real person. And she'd ask me, if I went to a concert, she's like, who did you go to? My mother grew up, I grew up listening to classic rock. And my mother would call radio stations and, win t-shirts and stuff like that. She was holding, in a lot of this stuff. And she's like, so who'd you go see? Who were the celebrities there? Who'd you meet? What'd you do? It was, we had a good relationship and we had what to talk about. And then when she passed, it was okay, so who do I have a real kasher with over here? What's next in terms of family? And, I sat Shiva. And during Shiva, Rabbi Feiner came, Raveitan Feiner. I had a kasher with him from before. I was very surprised that he came. I don't know who told him or whatever it was, but he drove from Camp Simcha over to Muncie. And I very uncharacteristically asked him, I was supposed to fly to LA a few weeks later with friends of mine. And I said to him, should I go, should I not go? And he's like, Ellie will still be there. Don't go now. And I listened, which it wasn't a crazy shock that I listened to him, but also I haven't been back. I haven't gone to LA. I still have yet to make it. I know it's still there, but I didn't make it. And that was my favorite place to go to Southern California and just chill. That was my vacation spot. I used to go once a year. And so I didn't go. And I kept working, Yom Tovim, and still doing the lifestyle. But I started going back. I was going to shul. I was saying Kaddish. I always had a chavrusa, even during those 7 years. I had a chavrusa. I was learning with my landlord every Tuesday. I wouldn't miss a concert to go to it. My wife likes to say that I have no idea, how to completely disconnect. She's like, you're always a frum guy, no matter what you're
bad
doing.
at going off the derech.
Basically. So I did all that stuff. And then my roommate said, basically I had a lot of vacation hours. And if I wouldn't, it was just an amazing time. Why would I take off? I loved what I was doing. I worked in Beis Ezra on West Broadway. Very close to the guys, love all of them to this day. I come in pretty much as soon as I fly into JFK, I go to the house, go visit my guys, go say hi, close to my boss. We speak once, twice a year. He's asking me to write him a speech. He's got a simcha, something like that. Very good kesher. And it was amazing. But why would I take off? I'm free the whole week. I'm just going, I'm going to the beach. I'm chilling at concerts, the food, everything. I'm living it up. Why would I take off? So I had a million vacation hours, and I went to, but my roommate was like, if we don't go, you lose the vacation hours, let's go to Israel. I mean, I went to yeshiva. I had a good time in yeshiva, but I didn't really feel there was anything for me there, but fine, I'll go. So we went for 2 weeks. Pretty much as soon as I got there, the Hebrew and everything else, like it's familiar. I'm like, oh yeah, this is good. And then I got on a bus and, everyone's pushing and just, very different than the American culture. And I was like, oh yeah, I hate this. Get me out of here. I have no interest in doing this. But I had this like moment that happened to me in Israel. I met someone, there was, this article written on Mishpacha about how this interaction I had with someone like at the Kotel, but it was just, I ended up going late to my meal, which is by the Golshevskys. And Rabbi and Rebbetzin Golshevsky, they live in Zechar Moshe, brilliant, amazing people. I used to go to them for meals. Jeff Seidel set me up at the Kotel when I was in yeshiva.
Sure.
And I used to go to them for meals. I became close with them and I went to them for the meal. And I basically missed the meal. It's always like they start late and they run very late. This week, I think I got there 8:30 and it was all over and everyone was sleeping except for Rabbi Golshevsky. And I said to him like, I don't really care about the meal. Can we talk? And I just kind of laid things out for him, like where I was holding. And I was just like, look, I'm good with what I'm doing. Like, I actually really am enjoying what I'm doing. But like, if there's something more, like I need to understand it before I just continue doing this. Like, this is cool now. But like, if I'm supposed to be somewhere at like 50, I don't want to sit and wait till I'm 45. Like, let's work on this thing now. So show me. And we sat down and he started telling me stuff. I'm like, let's see it inside. So we're grabbing Sfarim, off the shelves, learning different stuff, talking about different things. And I realized that like, I was good with what I was doing. But like, if I had a family, if I had kids, I want my kids to be informed, to be able to make their own decision. I want my kids to be able to feel connected in a way that I didn't really feel. And to be able to make a choice. Like, I didn't feel connected in that moment, but I wanted them to have the opportunity and to raise them in the right way. And I knew that the girls that I had, that I dated, that I got along with better than, say, other girls that I dated, were more spiritual, a certain type, and they felt very connected to Israel, and therefore they were in Israel. And I thought about the values that I had. And for me, I know I'm in the 5 towns, and I love the 5 towns. I think this is my home away from home, from Israel. But nothing against American culture. Very nervous about offending the people. But for me, like the values in Eretz Yisrael, being so close, I always felt very connected at the Kotel, and the Dolan was just a different way of life. I was like, that's what I want. If I'm doing like the Yiddishkeit properly, I need the more pashut life. Simple, connected. You're here. You feel in Eretz Yisrael. There's an electric current in the air. It's like, this is where I got to be. But I still had that same feeling when I was on the bus. That was like, yeah, but I'm still an American, cultured American bred guy. I grew up in Muncie. I grew up on half or an acre or something like that. Right behind my house was a park. Like, I like my space. I like the quiet. I'm not really, Israeli. But in AA, there are many amazing lessons, teachings, principles, etc., that aren't necessarily part of the steps. And one thing that I always live my life by is to do the next right thing. I try my best, always do the next right thing. So I made, at the time, and possibly to this day, the biggest decision of my life. And I was like, I think I need to make Aliyah. I have no job. I have, I had a degree, but like otherwise, I wasn't set up at all. I was like, I think I need to make Aliyah. And I mentioned this to Rabbi Golshevsky, and he's like, yeah, it sounds about right. So I, Sunday, or months of Shabbos, whatever, I called my Rabbi, and my Rabbi said, I asked him, like, yeah, is this the right thing? Make Aliyah? And he was like, yeah. It's like, if you're not here in 6 months, it's, you're not going to come. So I went back to America. I called my father. I told him that I was going to, I was thinking, I don't think I even finished the sentence. I just said to him, I'm thinking about making it. He's like, do it. You always loved Israel. I was like, did I? But okay. And that was that. I went back, filed my paperwork with Nefesh B'Nefesh. I met my wife actually when she came to America, and everything just, she was living in Israel, but she came to America And, that was that. I made Aliyah, got married 2 weeks later. And less than a month after that, I was in Kollel in a smicha program, despite the fact that, I hadn't really been learning on, any serious capacity for a long time. And I went through, I think, 4 of the biggest life changes in like 6 weeks, from making Aliyah to getting married to going back to Kollel, sitting and learning, when I hadn't been connected. And then my wife was expecting. So it was just a lot at once. And Baruch Hashem, I had amazing people, at the time, and through AA, 12 steps, everything like that, have a way of living life and a design for living that this stuff wasn't crazy overwhelming for me. I'm not saying it was like a total breeze, but, at the same time, it was like, this is totally manageable and I got this. And it just catapulted me to a completely different plane of existence. Because once I made that right decision, it set up all the next decisions. And going and learning gave me an opportunity to work on building that connection with Hashem. Being in the right place gave me an opportunity to be able to get kind of a fresh perspective and also explore it in my own time and figure out what to do. I never really worked and focused on halacha growing up. But when I went to a smicha program, you're learning what it is you're supposed to do. And that's huge for me, having the structure and having the place, what am I supposed to do? And I stopped looking at it as restrictive. I think people talk about how you tie your shoes as an example of how halacha is restrictive. And first of all, I don't think anybody's going to Gehenna because you didn't tie your shoes properly. Ask bigger people than me if that's the case. But for the most part, I don't really think that's the problem. But instead, it's giving me an opportunity in every moment to connect to Hashem, right? Even something as mundane as tying your shoes is an opportunity of no, there's a way you're supposed to live your life. There's a way to connect to Hashem in any given moment. No religion really gives you that capacity or thing in physical actions, things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis, no matter how mundane it is, every second of the day. And if you missed it, you're fine. That's, like I said, I don't think you're going to Gehenna for that. But there's the next thing that you can do. You're drinking, even not just the bracha. So you didn't pay attention to the bracha. Okay, fine. But the water, where's the water from? Right? For real. There's Shara Bechina or Victor Miller, all this basic stuff. You're eating an apple. How are things made? The world, all this stuff. It's my first in the Rambam. This is how you get it. This is how you build the Emunah B'tachon. This is how you get the Kesher to Hashem. The world that you have around you is meant to be experienced. It's not just we're a complete spiritual entity. The higher you are, the better you are. Obviously, the less you need these things. But how amazing is the world that we have? And I was able to really build from there over the next couple of years. And then, I never did what I thought I was going to do in going to Israel. I don't think I ever did what I thought I was going to do across the board, but I was thinking I was going to go to Ulpan and work in marketing. And right before I came to Israel, I went to Rabbi Feiner and I told him, okay, I'll see you in Eretz Yisrael. This is it. And it was Erev Shavuos. And Rabbi Feiner said to me, as I was walking, he's okay, so what's the plan? I'm going to go learn for a year. And then I'm going to go, start working in marketing. And he looks at me, he's like, you should open a yeshiva. Right. I remember laughing then. I remember laughing when I got to the car. And I remember laughing the entire Shavuos with my friends. Because to me, what could be further from what I'm going to do? I'm still staying off the radar. I'm still not I'm in no position to do anything like that. Was an ambition of mine, but also it's not what I who would go for that? I'm not interested. They're not interested. You know what I look like? You know who I am? That's not a thing. Anyhow, when I was in Kollel, there was, I started working with some guys. They started sending guys to me. I was supposed to learn with one guy. So the first year I learned with one guy. The next year they were you need to learn with 2 guys. And 2 turned into 6 to 10 on a daily basis. And then I started giving a shiur during the afternoons, during lunch, if guys were interested. So I started giving a shiur during that time. And then Rabbi Fisher, who I know from Shar Yashiv, offered me a job And I started working for Rabbi Fisher. My second year in Fisher's, Rabbi Fisher wanted to open like a therapeutic program in a therapeutic yeshiva in the Old City. And I opened the yeshiva and ran the yeshiva for him. And
which you'd be great for based on your past experience with everything.
Perhaps, but it's the real chiddush, I think, was what Rabbi Fisher did in having that confidence in me. And also, I was the youngest guy in the room, or one of the youngest guys in the room, and I'd only been a chinuch for a year. This is my second year there. Rabbi Fisher maybe saw something in me and said, okay, like, yes, I have the experience and the background in a lot of the stuff. Yeah, this is something that I can do. And it allowed me to meet some amazing people. But it was also, we have to figure things out. There is no therapeutic yeshiva model to base this on. So what's the right way of doing it, right? So guys are supposed to be sober, but are they motivated to be sober? Do they have the kalim? How do you do that if you've been in recovery, right? But if the guys are drinking or doing drugs, then, they're kicked out. So there's a balance because they can get in trouble with me, whereas, like they're also supposed to be open and honest. They're supposed to be working on this stuff. So there's so many different facets, and also in terms of therapy and building a program, in terms of the learning and rebbeim and all the rest of the stuff. And I got hands-on training with a tremendous amount of freedom, from Rabbi Fisher, who showed me the ropes and, what to, like, gave me the freedom to do what I had to do to figure this stuff out. And it was an unbelievable experience. And so after I was there for 2 years, Corona hit us hard, hit everybody hard. But in the Old City, we don't have the logistics. We didn't have the logistics to be able to quarantine effectively, while also going to the base medrash, while also getting deliveries, to Har Zion, where it's very difficult to get things in and out. So we needed to take a break. And I went back to Moshav, and the following year, I opened my own yeshiva in Givat Miftar. And it's been 4 years. That's basic background.
That is a good background. I have a trillion questions, and my favorite moment is coming up. But first, PZ Deals is your secret weapon for saving big on everyday essentials and surprise finds. I just scored wired shelving for our garage, and we saved $30. Got a Samsung wireless charger, like one of those cool futuristic pads, $45 off. Got an electric egg cooker. We had one, but this one has like 7 at a time. We got that for half the price. The Betty Crocker pizza maker, $20 off, and it doesn't stop there. Dishwasher pods, Samsung tablet, cast iron skillet, even a kid's bike. Deals on all of them, from home goods to tech to toys. PZ Deal finds the best prices so you don't have to. Don't waste time searching. Just follow PZ Deals and start saving smart. And believe me, your wallet will thank you. Download the free PZ Deals apps today and never pay full price again. Now, Corny Joe Cumming, looking to make your sphere truly count, these 3 powerful reads are the perfect for every age and stage, and they'll inspire deep growth, unity, and connection to your Torah in today's world. Now, let's break it down. First off, we're going to start off with the brand new book, Common Ground by Rabbi Aryeh Friedner, published by Adir Press and distributed by Feldheim. If every day counts, so should every Jew. Beautiful. In the wake of Yom HaZikaron, Yom HaAtzmaut, and the ongoing war in Israel, Rabbi Friedner delivers a timely message of achdus and hope. Endorsed by Rav Yitzchak Breitowitz, this book is a must-read for anyone who values unity and spiritual growth in these challenging times. Side point, this is such a gorgeous cover to a book. Yes, I am judging the book by its gorgeous cover. Okay, next up, I know the Feldheim team is not going to be so happy with me, but I don't have the book on me, and I usually hold them up, but I was reading it, and I left it at my house. That's how much I'm enjoying it. The classic book, Let Me Join Your Nation by Yosef Deutsch. From the legendary Let My Nation series, relive the inspiring journey of Rus with breathtaking depth and clarity, a perfect read for Shavuos, including a Hebrew-English Megillah Rus. The real listeners know that I grew up on the Let My Nation series, so this one is a staple in the Langer home. And for the children, the story of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai by Gnendel Krohn. Prepared for Lag BaOmer with this captivating illustrated book, kids will love how Rabbi Shimon lit up the world from a hidden cave. My son Alexander asked me to read this every night, and what can I say? The kid has good taste. And friends, you're welcome to join the exclusive L'Chaim Book Club, where we literally give away the best books. And keep in mind, the titles I listed above are 10% off with the code word INSPIRE on Feldheim.com. You can, of course, buy them in your local bookstores or Amazon, but you're going to get 10% off when you buy it on Feldheim with the code INSPIRE. So go ahead and check out Get all the books. Why not? Now back to this week's episode. Let's talk about like your lowest point where you're the most lonely. How did you, like, what would you give your advice to yourself then? If you could talk to yourself then?
It's a good question. I don't know, because I don't think there was something that I needed to hear that I wasn't hearing. Gratitude, I think positivity, a lot of this stuff is, it's very effective, but it's a question of like where your mindset is. I'll put it like this. If, when you're having like, when someone's having a hard time, right? So you have someone comes over and tells you to have bitachon, right? Or if someone's angry and you tell them to relax, right? So usually it has the opposite effect, right? Calm down. You're angry, calm down, right? You're depressed. Don't be depressed. Be happy. Oh, where were you my whole life? Tell me this stuff. It doesn't really work like that. There's two different modes. Like I mentioned earlier, right? There's survival and there's thriving. Okay, which mindset are you in? So if someone comes to you and tells you like thrive mode and you're in survival mode, it doesn't register. Mm-hmm. And that person doesn't understand, because the language they're speaking is like, come join me over here. This is the best. Right? You have to speak from a survival mode perspective, which is why AA and 12-step programs are effective, is because people are coming and speaking the same language. You can't walk over to someone and just be like, things are great. And the guy's like, yeah, I know, right? He's depressed out of his mind. He's going through so many difficult things. You have to speak in survival mode. Everything that I heard or that I was hearing from people around me was coming from thrive mode. And how is that supposed to be effective? Oh, come, we'll help you. Like, this is one of the nicest people. I was, I helped load someone's car once. Like they didn't ask me. I just saw they were struggling. I went and helped the person. And afterwards, the guy who saw me, he was a Rabbi in a yeshiva that I'd gone to previously. He knew me by face. I don't think he knew me well. And he said to me, how come you don't come to yeshiva anymore? And I was like, I do. Every once in a while I stop by. And he's like, yeah, why don't you come and we'll sit and we'll learn. And I was looking at him like, I really wish you would have just said thank you. Like, that's it. Like it didn't have to be something of telling me how I'm like, I did you a favor and you're telling me how I'm not living up to my potential. But he wasn't saying anything bad. He was just telling me like, you helped me, I'll help you. I didn't feel like I needed help. I just wanted to be left alone. I wanted to help him because I saw he needed help. And he was trying to do the same thing. But we weren't speaking the same language because our values weren't aligned and we weren't holding in the same place. So you have to speak from a place that your values and those things are similar, and where the view, the hashkafa, whatever is going to be aligned. If you would have told me then where I'm holding now, I would have laughed, but I wouldn't not have believed you. And I think I would have said back, what did you do? So it's not what I could say to myself then. If I would have said something to myself then, I would have just been like, thrive mode. I'm surviving here. What are you saying? It wouldn't work. Well, if I would have said, this is where you end up. Now, what questions do you have? Then I bridge the gap. I find this very common, like with guys in yeshiva. Yeah, maybe we've had a similar experience. Maybe we haven't. Maybe there's, but like, it has to be that you're asking the questions, right? Because us being able to relate to each other, struggling, whatever it is, whether it's, drinking, whether it's struggling with your Yiddishkeit, mental health, whatever the case may be, that gets us in the door. But that's not like, oh, now I'm qualified to tell you what to do, right? Now you feel you can relate, we can have a conversation. But the real thing is, where are you trying to go? What do you want to do? You understand that I'm a seeker and that I've put in work. Now we can have a conversation, but it's got to be that it comes from the person.
That's a very wise and smart advice for that. I'm curious because you mentioned how when you at a certain point where you were exploring and you're going to concerts and going to the water park and living it up, that it was so good. And could you tell us your theory? I guess when our whole life, at least in the yeshiva system, we're like, going off the derech, you're not really happy. You're not going to really be happy if you go off. Like the Torah is going to make you happy. What do you say to that?
They're right. They're right, but it's also not coming from, it's about values, I think, right? Rav Hutner, when he came to America, said, how do you educate American Bahram? It's like a totally different culture. And he said that America is built on hero worship. He said, so if we're trying to educate these guys, we have to change the heroes from being the athletes and the celebrities to the Rebbeim, the Rosh Yeshiva, to those people, right? And that was the change you needed to implement. And clearly Rav Hutner was wildly successful. Nowadays, we have the same problem. But if you're looking at what people are actually talking about, if you go into the lunchroom in unnamed yeshivas, but almost every yeshiva, right? They're not really, there's like a percentage talking about the sheer. But for the most part, it's what did Elon Musk do now? Where's Bitcoin holding? What's with Ethereum and Doge and, everything else in politics and whatever else is happening. And you're talking about what people are doing with their money and how they made the money and all the rest of that stuff. That's what's driving the culture, right? So it's about speaking the language. Where is the happiness, right? So even if we know, right, there's the mental side of things, the emotional side of things, and then there's the intellectual side of things. So intellectually, we keep what we're pursuing, or emotionally and intellectually, is we're pursuing happiness. But if your Rebbeim are telling you, Torah is what's making you happy, and you're not feeling it, you're going to explore other avenues to find that happiness. And, as a kid, you're standing, you're shooting around playing basketball by yourself, right? So you go 3, 2, 1, right? Game 7, NBA Finals. You launch a 3, you miss, and actually you get the rebound and shoot again, right? Until you get it, you're like, oh, we won, right? It's amazing. You're hitting a homer, everything, it's the full count. World Series Game 7, 9th inning, and you hit a grand slam, win the World Series, right? Like you weren't sitting there, grabbing your Gemara and walking through the house being like, just finish Shas, right? Halavai, you are. Right? 100%, that's what we want. But how many people these days want to be the next Rechaim Kanievsky versus how many people want to be the next billionaire, wealthy person, next Gvir, living on your own private island or whatever. That's where people are at, right? So I don't think the message resonates in the same way because we're talking about a long-term outcome. That's the issue, in my opinion. We're talking about happiness as like this long-term project that we're trying to get through, right? Like what I said about going through school is like, this is something to get through and happiness will be there at the end. Maybe it's the freedom I'm going to find or whatever it is, but like, it's not something that I'm able to grasp today. But what can I do today? I can go out and play ball. I can skip school. I can do all the rest of the stuff that's going to allow me to escape, and I'm going to be happy today. So if you look at people, growing up, they talked about Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Tom Brady, whoever the Rabbi were talking about at the time. Like, you think he's actually happy? You think he's happy? Yes, you couldn't say that in yeshiva, but yeah, absolutely. Now, are they happy the way that the Dalim today are happy? No, I don't think so. I'm not either of them. But no. But the reason that they're happy is because if they set a goal today, they achieve the goal, right? If your goal was to win championships, your goal was to go out and do your job to the best of your ability, of course you're happy, you're satisfied, you're fulfilled, right? You've done what you wanted to do. That releases chemicals and endorphins and everything else, like the dopamine rush you can have is like, there's satisfaction here. You feel happy, right? The problem is what happens afterwards, right? So you have to do it again tomorrow. That's like that with everything. It happens like that with the Gedolim, with everyone. Like you have to have a sustained excellence that you're bringing to the table. But what happens when your career's over, right? What's Tom Brady doing now? What's with Jordan? Michael Jordan, I hope he doesn't come after me based on everything that we know about him now, but he's a miserable person. Now, during his career, he also, there's something there, the competitive edge that Michael Jordan has. But like, yeah, he has nothing now because he can't go out and dominate in the NBA, right? Tom Brady isn't out there winning championships. But on that day that he won, the rush and the feeling and the happiness that he had was there. I'm not saying it's fleeting because in general, all the stuff is fleeting. It's not like you have a long-term happiness. Yeah, there's fulfillment, there's satisfaction, there's happiness on a certain level of what you accomplished. But if you stop today, it's not that it's gone. You still accomplished, but you're in the same boat as the rest of those people. The difference is that by Torah, it never leaves. You sit and learn, and you're connected to Hashem. You can be connected to that happiness every single day. If you stop, then it's gone. Maybe even in a different way, because why did I do all that stuff? But you're able to do it for the long term. So a person has to find what's giving them that sense of fulfillment and sustained excellence in their Yiddishkeit to find that happiness. It's hard to do at 5 years old. But if a kid isn't succeeding in learning Chumash, learning Gemara, whatever it is, what are we doing to give him that real connection? What's the highlight of going to shul? Getting candy? That's great. I'll show you a guy who's going to be very involved in the Kiddush Club later on. Why is it going to change? I went to yeshiva. I don't remember them sitting there and explaining what davening is about. Davening is sit there, and when your Rebbe walks up and down the aisle, right, you sit, you point. You're totally on the wrong page, but like you point and you say the words and you whatever. It's like, whatever. And like that's, and how many people is that the experience for? Right? You have a couple guys who understand and who learn and did all the, whatever, they're connected. And then there's a very sizable contingent that is not. And where are they finding themselves in their Yiddishkeit? And maybe davening isn't the address that's going to be the strongest connection for them. But Hashem doesn't want us all to be robots. Hashem wants us to be individuals. He wants us to follow our own strengths. So what is it that we're supposed to do? Right? How are we supposed to connect? By using our own kaychas and our own abilities and our own way of connecting to be connected to Hashem, to be connected to our Yiddishkeit, and to fulfill our tafkid. And that will bring a person long-term happiness. But if Hashem didn't want us to also be able to derive joy from going on a roller coaster, he wouldn't have given the idea of inventing a roller coaster to someone, right? The food could all be the same way every other person can be the same. Hashem, there's candy, there's sugar, there's chocolate, I'm going to go through every list of food here, right? But there's so many different options and choices for a person to feel happy with. We're all like that for Hashem. You have something unique that you can bring to the table. The difference is Hashem doesn't love one more than the other when it comes to us as Yidden. He loves all of us equally. And what you bring to the table, Hashem wants. He doesn't need, he wants. And that gives a much deeper love for every single person, because it's not about that you needed to do it. Thank you for handing in your homework. Oh, you did this because you want to be connected to me. That allows for a much deeper sense in love.
It's really a beautiful idea. I'm very curious about, going through, you said 9 years old when you started drinking, and then you were alcoholic for, am I saying it right? Is that accurate? For a portion of your life. They say, I don't know if it's true, that it's one of the addictions that someone sadly has to, it's not like, okay, now you're done. Like it's constantly, you have to focus on not falling back into that. Did you ever fall back into drinking again? Maybe it was like a hard time, or I don't know, like what is that? Is it a struggle? Does it go away? I don't really know much about it, as you could tell.
Okay. Yes, it's a lifelong thing, and it's something that if you're not keeping in check and working on, a person can very easily relapse. This is very common. There's people who are sober for 20 something years or more and relapse. If you're not, as the book says, you're resting on your laurels, right? If a person's not working a program, person's not active in terms of what they're doing, then they can, slip up. But the real thing is that recovery isn't about not drinking. That's the conception, right? Obviously, that's a pretty big part of it, but that's not what it's about. It's about learning how to live life. It's about having the tools and the capabilities to live life and having a guide map for when these things come up. At some point, if you're working a program and you have a solution in your life, that solution replaces the solution that you were looking for in terms of addiction, whatever the addiction may be. So no, I'm not tempted by alcohol. And Purim is not a time that I'm like suffering and hiding in a cave at all.
What do you do for Purim?
I have a party in yeshiva and I go and enjoy like anybody else. And if someone needs help, then I try to help them. I don't necessarily say as a designated driver because there are plenty of people who are, not sober on Purim and also driving, unfortunately. But no, it's not a tough day at all. And it's nice to know where you're going to end up on Purim, and in terms of acting out and everything else that we've seen. I'm not anti like drinking. I have a problem. I can't drink. Other people can drink. If they have a problem, I'd suggest that they get help and reach out to the resources and get sober. But I'm myself and millions of other people have a solution in their lives of being able to follow a program. And I'm not the poster boy for AA or anything like that. But I understand that this is an uncommon thing, that you have someone who's in my position who's willing to talk about this, because in general, I think there's like this negative view of people who've struggled or had issues. Okay, cool. We shouldn't be celebrating bad behaviors and bad habits and stuff like that. And, it's like you're sober, like, congratulations. You want a cookie? Like, you're not supposed to. Good. You stopped, you have someone doing crazy drugs and stuff like that. Like, you want a medal because you stopped doing that. But these are real deal struggles that a lot of people have. And we have a certain conception of they're low lives, they're this, they're that, whatever, like just negative associations that we're putting on those people. And I don't think it's accurate. I might be biased, but I don't think it's a fair assessment that you're making of a person. It's a struggle, the same as we all have struggles. The difference is this particular thing has the best, like, I don't know what the word would be, but like after you deal with it, it's the best, right? If you're sick and you have the flu and you take your treatment, afterwards you're back to normal. If you're someone who has an addiction, and or even if you're not, if you follow like a 12 steps model and incorporate those things into your life, it doesn't go against Torah values or anything like that. You come out so much better on the other side than when you came in beforehand. It's like nothing else. It's maybe if a person loses weight and they go to the gym and they get stronger or something like that. But this is totally different because now all the things you didn't know how to deal with before, you now know how to deal with. And you have a community, which is huge, and support and people you're able to speak to. And you're not alone and isolated. I have Caleb to deal with life. So why would I want that stuff? Why would I want to drink? Why would I want to go back to those things? I have a capacity for happiness and joy and serenity that I never had before. So there's no pull in that regard. The problem is I also have something fighting inside me. Okay, because I'm an extremist. I don't know if you could pick up on that. And that stuff pulls me towards some self-destructive habits. And I could very easily get pulled into those things. It's not coming from a logical place. It's coming from I know what alcohol is. I know what the other substances and stuff like that are. I know these negative behaviors, and I've made a mental association already of like that thing. So even though I'm not chemically dependent on it, I know what those are. And you could very easily lapse into those things. And years ago, I got injured. I was in sobriety. I think I'd been sober around 4 years or something like that. And I got hit by a car. And I went to the hospital. And the doctor, he came over and he was, how are you doing? Whatever. I'm like, I'm in a lot of pain. And he's like, okay, do you have any allergies? And I said, penicillin, amoxicillin. Yeah. And he's like, okay. And he said to the nurse, like, get him morphine, tells her a dose, whatever, something like that, bring morphine. And I felt like this wave, like a warm feeling, like just coming. I'm like, oh yeah, you get injured and you get stuff. And it terrified me. I actually wasn't very active in recovery at the time. Whole story, but like, I was resting on my laurels and I was like putting myself in a bad position that I could mess up. And when he said this, I was just like excited. And I was like, well, what is this? Like excitement. I was like, oh. So I called the doctor over and I said to him, listen, I'm an alcoholic and I'm an addict. Like, you're the one who's in charge of my care and whatever, but like, I want you to understand I got a problem here. So if we can avoid this, let's avoid this. And they gave me some Advil and it didn't work, but they did give me Advil. And that was a big wake up call because it could be that easy. Yeah. Keeping your eye on the prize, like all the time of what you're doing. Speak to your sponsor, speak to your doctor, speak to whoever, but like, I'm not trying to tell people how to live their lives, but yeah, it's very easy to slip into these things. You got to stay connected. You got to stay on top of what you're doing. And it's just one of the best to me, it's the best way of living life, just being connected and living with the 12 steps and the principles of my life.
Before we were speaking, you were telling me about your yeshiva, and it's so unique that, and I wish there would be more of them, and maybe as time goes on, we'll see a bigger need for your kind of yeshiva. But can you explain how it's different? I loved your mashal of like the fleishiks, milchiks, parv.
So yeah, I wish I could take credit for that mashal, but credit goes to Rav Zev Leff. Rabbi Leff spoke about how in chinuch there's 3 different types of bachrim: fleishik, milchik, and parv. Right, so the fleishik is the good kid, good student, involved, participates, the dream student. Milchig is the at-risk kid, and parv just goes along with the motion, does what it is that he's supposed to do. And Rabbi Leff said that in chinuch, mechanchim love working with fleishik guys, and they like working with milchig guys. He said no one wants to work with the parv guy. And I heard this, I filed it away, and okay. Years later, when I was working in different yeshivas, working with some high at risk guys, we saw that, some guys flipped out, went back towards, mainstream fleishig types of places, and a good cheluk didn't. And when they left yeshiva and they went back, it wasn't like they started knocking it out of the park. Like, they just floated, living in their parents' basements, smoking marijuana, doing whatever else. Like they weren't really very much liach after. And I was wondering what is this about? And I started reflecting a little bit and thinking about what Rabbi Leff had said. And if you look at how the system is set up, there are ruba places, mainstream yeshivas. Right? When someone, is unsuccessful in those yeshivas, they end up going to an at-risk yeshiva. Okay. And those are the 2 types of yeshivas that are there. There are very, very few yeshivas that are not in those 2 categories. Like you think about it, like almost nothing comes to mind. So I realized so where are these guys going if they're not very much liach? What's happening to those guys? Since they go to the at-risk places, they adopt at-risk behaviors. They look and smell and everything, like they're at risk, and they get by. But the at-risk system is designed for actual at-risk kids. So if the message resonates, the message resonates. Great. Now he's back to where he should be. But if he's not, we never really address the problem because we're never speaking his language. And it also made me realize that there are plenty of people who stay in the mainstream system because they're able to get by just enough or whatever it is. They're not thriving over there either, right? But they go straight through. And it looks like on paper that they look and smell and everything else just like the fleishy guys, but they're not.
How would you explain what a parv guy is?
Years ago, I had a friend who was DJing in the city. And one day someone reached out to him on Facebook saying, is this and this guy from that I went to high school with? And he said, yeah, you remember me? Yeah, whatever. He said, DJing in the city tonight. The guy said, can I come? I said, yeah, sure. So this guy came. After the set, he meets my friend and they're talking. And they're catching up, reminiscing, I guess, about where they were to where they are now. And my friend asked him, so what are you doing now? So he said, after high school, he went to one of the top yeshivas in Eretz Yisrael. And, it was going well. He met a girl, he was dating, shidduch dating, whatever, he got married, had kids, and, got to find parnasa after Kyle. So he took the LSATs, went to Harvard Law School, got a job, passed the bar, became a lawyer, everything. And then one day a few years later, guy wakes up one morning and just hates who he sees in the mirror. And just, he doesn't want to do this anymore. So he went off the Derech, got divorced, and, he's got a lot of charata about what he did with his life. And, I've said the story to hundreds of people, and they ask me, what's pshat? Everything was working out for this guy. He went to one of the best yeshivas. There were no fertility problems, no shidduchim problems. It didn't really even seem on the surface like there were shalom bias problems, whatever. I'm sure it wasn't great, but it didn't really seem there were red flags over here. He went to the best law school in the world, right? And he got a job. Parnasa didn't seem to be an issue. Fertility, marriage, learning, whatever. Everything was great. So what's the issue? And I don't know. But what I can say is that very often we take the life that we're given, the opportunities that are presented to us, and we just go with it. And we're not really asking why. We're going with it. Oh, you got into the best yeshiva? Go to the best yeshiva. You got into the best college? Go to the best college. This girl, he couldn't find a reason to say no to the things that came up in his life. I don't mean to be presumptuous about someone's life that I don't know. I haven't met the guy. I know it's a true story. But we all know people like this, right? You went to the best places. You went to the top yeshivas. You went to the best places. You didn't really have issues. So why are you throwing this stuff away, right? How often do we hear people saying this? Why are you throwing things away? Because if you're not the individual and the hero in your own story, right, you think by going through the motions and doing what's presented to you, oh, it's going to be amazing. What about you, the person? You have to discover who you are. And to me, that's really what signifies a power person. It's not someone who came from an at-risk yeshiva or mainstream yeshiva. That's not the point. You went to the best, you went to the worst. It makes no difference. Who are you? If you can't answer that or define that, then you're just hoping that all the stars align and everything goes well and it works out. Hashgacha pratis isn't an excuse for something. We confuse the concept of what Hashgacha pratis is for what is actually happening. You still have to do your hishtadlus. Hashem is giving you opportunities, and maybe you should say yes. Chances are you should say yes. But in reality, it has to be you and fitting your personality and the narrative of what you're trying to do with your life. And that's what we're trying to address. It's the biggest problem, in my opinion, in the chinuch system these days, is finding the individual and making and building him up to become someone who is fleshig about his own life. Not necessarily about learning, halavai, 100% for learning, but he should be fleshig and enthusiastic and be able to be fulfilled by the life that he's living. And too many people are neglecting this. And it could come up when they're in elementary school, but it also comes up with 30, 40, 50-year-olds. And we want to avoid that crisis later on for people who don't feel that they have a shul, who don't have a rav, who don't have a community, are dissatisfied with their job, their marriage, whatever, all these different things. If you would have known this information beforehand of who you were, it would have informed the decisions that you made and put you in a much better position to thrive. And that's what we're going for. So we need to do something to address this parv element, right? And to speak to these people. Now, I don't really believe there is such a thing as a parv guy. It's just parv when it comes to what's being taught, right? The what's going on in yeshiva and all that stuff. There's that lack of individuality. So we need to find the people. So we built a yeshiva around this theme and this concept, following the methods and teachings of Rosh Shlomo Freifeld, Shar Yashiv, some influences from other places, but primarily focused on building the person. And the biggest challenge in today's generation is self-esteem. And I say this confidently because I thought of it and I discussed it with very big people. And the Rav was like, yeah, self-esteem is the big issue in today's generation. So how do you build self-esteem? So I like building systems. I like working on things and trying to understand behavioral psychology, behavioral economics, rational and irrational thinking, what led us to the place that we got to, and going as far back as we possibly can to try to correct this. Ideally, yes, we should have an elementary school and there should be a high school and all those things. I'm starting off with the guys that I was working with now, and let's get those people plugged in because everyone has passions and interests. So how do you get through to someone who doesn't really express what their interests are? They haven't been super successful in school. It's not a lack of intelligence. In a lot of cases, they're some of the brightest people out there, right? But like they weren't really successful. What's the reason for that stuff? How could I get them to buy in when no one else got them to buy in? So the idea is I need you to buy into yourself. I always say, I can't be more invested in you than you are in yourself. And using a lot of 12-step principles as well, but basically saying, you're in the driver's seat. You want this? Come and get it. I'll sit there and talk with you, and the Rabbi will sit and talk with you, and we'll work on everything we possibly can to figure out what you want to do. But you need to take achrayus. You need to get yourself in the driver's seat and say, I'm going to make this thing happen. Wherever you go in life, you are the only constant. And therefore, you need to be your own biggest strength. Your Rebbeim, your family, everyone, those things are amazing. That's called a support network. That's not my primary network. That's my support network. You need to be as strong as you possibly can. If you don't feel good about yourself and what you're doing and recognize your own capabilities, how are you supposed to be successful? You're just taking whatever opportunities are being given to you and you're just doing something with them. And hopefully it's your ideal and optimal life. We all want something epic, right? You never heard of a guy, the same as I mentioned before, walking around with the Gemara thinking like, I just finished Shas. Yeah, right? You also never hear a guy being like, I'd love to hear a psychiatric diagnosis of this guy, but like, you imagine a guy who's like sitting on the bench pretending that someone else hit the game winner. And he's there like, yeah, I got to see it. That's awesome, right? You don't want to be the guy on the field like, we lost. It's realistic because chances are that's who most of us actually are. But everyone wants to live this epic, optimal life and the dream of being the man. Doesn't mean that no one else is the man, but you need to be the man in your own story. As Rosh Yeshiva said, be big, right? So I say, who are you? Step up. If you don't know who you are, then like, how's it supposed to happen? How is this supposed to become, this supposed to be that epic life that you want to live? You don't want to be like 80, 90 years old and your legacy is just like, oh yeah, and I was there. Everyone else was succeeding and I saw it. That's not the goal. So the yeshiva is designed to work with guys who maybe were in at-risk yeshivas, maybe they were mainstream yeshivas, maybe in the army, they weren't, whatever. Just come and discover yourself and learn and grow connected. And we give classes on everything we possibly can to try to help them be as prepared as possible for life, because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know where I was going. I wasn't just tell me what to do. What is the next thing I'm supposed to do? It's a big emphasis on halacha. It's a big emphasis on financial literacy, dating 101, shalom bayis, all the challenges and things that are going to come up. We try to prepare everyone for as best as possible. And this way they're able to go out and live that thriving life instead of keeping them in survival mode.
Sounds like a great yeshiva. I just literally the other day I saw a very practical way to do what you just said. That you're supposed to imagine that there's everyone's watching a movie about your life. It's a biography, whatever. It's about your life and whatever challenge things that you're going through. If the audience is watching it, what are they chanting for you to do? That's what you should be doing with, getting through those challenges. And it's hard sometimes to like do that on our own. But like, if you think of it like that, it's like, oh, it's not me, it's the audience, because we deep down know what we're really supposed to be doing. So like,
I was talking about this yesterday, but I created a personality test. I like creating systems, questionnaires, everything, just to try to get to the root understanding of where things are at. So how much of what we're doing is influenced by other people. So I created a personality test. The thing that's unique about this personality test isn't really what we're asking. There's 120 questions, largely based in Yiddishkeit and connection, but also intelligence. It's like just as many different things as we could put up. I think it was 120 questions. And I also, I was asked to send it. I sent it to people, like, do it as like a group activity. But I don't have a developer, so I don't have it like to give me the real data that I want. I love the data. But the thing that we did different was you fill it out, but also everybody else fills it out. And there's controls that say, how long did you know the person for? How well do you think you know the person? And then I want to see the discrepancy between them. But how I see myself, is that similar to the way other people see what you're saying? What should you do? So what's the difference between those things? And you get a better idea of who you are. But also there's a lot of stuff about me that I don't know. I'm too close to see it. I'm just accepting those things about myself. But you might be able to give me some kind of insight in who I am and strengths and weaknesses I didn't have. And I want to correct those weaknesses and I want to embrace those strengths. So you're saying is everyone yelling out, like, it's so obvious what to do. So going back to what I said before about surviving or thriving, is like, what kind of mode are you actually in? If I was watching everyone saying what I should do, is also like, so what's holding me back? A lot of cases, they see the strengths that you had the whole time based on what you're saying. They see what you can do. And the whole time you're walking around just beating yourself up. And therefore you don't think you're capable. It ties into this other dynamic of positive and negative thinking, right? That negativity is 4 times more powerful than positive thinking. So I say this all the time that, if I sit with a guy for a half hour a day and just build him up and build him up and build him up, right? And he spent a half hour a day beating himself up. Those 2 things don't cancel each other out. I have to spend 2 hours building him up to the half hour that he spent. But that doesn't happen because no one's beating themselves up for a half hour. You're beating yourself up all day. If we could go into the root cause of why a person's beating himself up, I don't need to spend a half hour building the guy up, because now wherever he goes, he understands what he needs to say. Yeah, sometimes you should be sitting there saying, oh, that wasn't good what I just did there, right? But not saying now I'm worthless as a person. How much people are yelling is also like what you're saying, this analogy for the theater is like, yeah, 100%. That's what I should be doing. What's holding me back from doing it? Why didn't I do it? That's the stuff that I'm very curious about. It's like, why didn't you do it? You're smart, you're capable, you know what it takes to be successful. Do it. In yeshiva, I always say, I hold people to the standard of what their dreams are and what they can do. So if a guy says he wants to be the CEO of a company, I say, amazing. It's great. Tell him what the company is. Tell him what you want to do. How are you going to do it? What's the process? Awesome. Now start living up to it. How are you going to dress? There was a guy who was in yeshiva, first guy who came to yeshiva. He came to yeshiva in a t-shirt and shorts, sneakers, whatever, but baseball hat. That's how he came. Fine. He was working. He'd been to yeshiva and Eretz Yisrael, all this stuff. And throughout the year, he was growing. He was learning. He was doing amazing. And then the next year in the afternoons, he went to learn in a kollel. He came to me a couple days in and he said to me, he's like, I just don't fit in with the kollel. I was like, okay. And he's like, they seem more serious. It's like, but like learning wise, we're on the same level, but just like, I just don't fit in. I said, how do they dress? I said, a white shirt and black pants. I said, okay. So you want to fit in? Start wearing a white shirt and black pants. Like, I don't know, whatever. And he's on the fence. I said, if you don't do it, it's fine. That's okay. But don't come to me like tomorrow or next week telling me like, there's got to be something else. That's it. You want to fit in? You got to look like the rest of the people. I'm not saying it's about panemius, chitzonius, whatever. I'm not a separate conversation. But if you want to fit in, you got to look like those people. And to his credit, he went out, bought a white shirt and black pants, and that became his wardrobe. And then this summer, he's married. This summer, he approached me about opening a kollel in yeshiva, and he spearheaded opening a kollel in yeshiva. Guy's doing unbelievable. It's amazing, and it's like I didn't have to do it. I pointed out, yeah, white shirt and black pants. He didn't know it. He didn't accept it. Just gave a little bit of a push to say, if this is what you're going to do, this is what you want to do. You want to fit in. That's what you're supposed to do. And not everyone in yeshiva is wearing shorts and a t-shirt or something like that. There are plenty of guys wearing a white shirt and black pants. And actually, I don't really think there is almost anybody wearing a shorts and t-shirt, but like there's the dress code in the classical sense. It's how do you feel comfortable? If you want to be the CEO, you have to act like the CEO. You have to wake up on time. You have to be disciplined. You have to be going out there. A guy said he wants to work in finance. I said, okay. So I got a Financial Times, gave it to the guy and said, a huge part of working in finance, being an investment banker, is reading, okay, what's happening in the markets and being knowledgeable about what's happening. So take First Seder today and read the Financial Times. And if you can't do it, we either have to ask why and what can be different, or we need to say, this might not be for you. Maybe if he got more familiar, I'm saying stuff to work on it that he'd say, okay, he's speaking the same language. But if you're not interested in it, then like, why are we going in that direction? So we're holding them to a certain standard. That's how I'm judging them. If you don't do it, then I can't be upset about that. I'm just more invested than you. So it's always about, you want to get married? What do you need to do to be the best husband that you can be? There's anger, there's anxiety, there's impatience, whatever that we all have and suffer from. What do you need to do to put yourself in a position to be the best husband? And we have conversations both one-on-one with Bachram to build them in those areas and to point the stuff out and to have conversations real-time working on it. And also we have classes in these things to bring awareness of what things are and bring people in from the outside to speak about this stuff. And the amazing thing is, it's the same really as yeshivas that I went to growing up. Where I don't think it's like a chiddush like that. The difference is they're in the driver's seat. And since they're in the driver's seat, they want something more. When I'm talking about implementing tests and quizzes and stuff like that to understand what people actually know in halacha and running a household, financial literacy, all this stuff, system that I'm putting together. Hopefully we're launching this summer's month. And I mentioned this to some guys who like don't want to take tests. They weren't very matzliach in school. Every single guy said he wants it because there's no punishment. There's no, oh, if you're not. We all want to be that best version of ourselves. We don't want to be the guy sitting on the bench. We want to be the star in our own show, and we want to match up. And we know if we're deficient, we're not going to get there. So they want it. Everybody wants it. Just a question of, did they buy into that narrative and get out of survival mode and get into thriving mode?
Really incredible. If someone wants to hear more about the yeshiva, maybe they want to donate to the yeshiva, where's the best place that they could go?
That would be amazing. Kol brachas, vishachanti.com.
And we'll link it down below for anyone to easily click on it.
To reach out, contact us. It's Baruch Hashem, been very successful. And I'm very grateful for the interest that people express, both in whether it's in terms of making systems for other people, trying to analyze and try to help out elsewhere. That's what it's about. It's not just, it's a movement. It's not just, oh, here's the yeshiva. We know this is a problem. We know this is something that we want to address. Baruch Hashem, the mainstream places, doing an amazing job. At-risk places, doing an amazing job. The biggest unaddressed demographic is what I expressed about the power of places. And we want to help as much as we can put people in a position to succeed, and that people should see the success from their children and people themselves. If they're not feeling connected, that's what we're trying to do. We want to help out as much as our time and availability is. That's our goal and our mission in Vishachanti.
Shmuel Luger, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
What a conversation. I have a few ideas as a follow-up topic for this episode, but I don't want to spoil anything. If you made it to the deep end of this episode, drop the word epic in the comments. And now, before I get to my outro, thank you to our sponsors. Use the code word INSPIRE for 10% off with this week's titles on Feldheim.com. Never pay full price again with the PZ Deals app. Go download it. Go help thousands of young women and donate $1 a day to Ohr Naava. Click the link in the show notes. Reach out to our friends at BitBean so your business can do wonders and drive the car you deserve for pricing and service that is golden with WheelsToLease. Now, looking at Rev Luger teaches me a lesson. Your past doesn't disqualify you. It prepares you. Rabbi Luger's candid account of being expelled from yeshiva, living a double life, and struggling with faith teaches a powerful truth. Every detour, every fall, every doubt can become part of your redemption. The journey proves that the spiritual leadership isn't born from perfection, but from honesty, humility, and growth. Instead of hiding his wounds, he used them to heal others. That's real leadership. Remember, inspiration's everywhere. L'chaim.
Living L'chaim.